All right, now what we're learning, this is BATI LGANI. This is the commentary of our Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, on the 14th paragraph of the 20 paragraph essay left by us by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe before he passed away. And it's talking about making this world a holy place, and that each and every one of us is a holy temple, and that we have to do the job of the holy temple to reveal God in the world. And that was done in the holy temple. People would go to the holy temple and they would feel that they're being created, and that they're being created for a purpose, and they're being created by love, and the world was a happy place, and people felt happy. That was what it was in the time of the temple. Well, the Rebbe says right now we're also in the time of the temple. What? Who is the temple? Me and you. Where's the temple? Wherever we are. And we're waiting, and we're doing everything possible to bring Mashiach, who will build the third temple, an actual third temple, to activate the fact that each one of us is a holy temple. But meanwhile, the Rebbe is doing his best to get us to do the work to make us this third temple, to bring a real third temple into the world, because God wants to be revealed not just inside of us, but also in the physical world. And that's the temple, is the third world. Okay. How are we going to reveal godliness in this physical world? Well, it's up to me and you. How are we going to do it? What does it mean? So says the Rebbe, if we remember, we learned before that there's different aspects that God uses in order to create the world. There's what's called God's light. There's God's life, which that we can see that things exist. That's a big miracle. And things are alive. That's a big miracle. And then there's what's called God's power. That makes everything more physical, and we don't see God. That conceals everything. And that's God's power. But there's another thing which is called the name of God. And the name of God, that's really what creates everything. One second, we just finished saying that it was the light of God, that it was the life of God. What's this idea of the name of God? It says the reason that all the creations are created by God's names, and the whole Torah is God's names, words, letters. This is because, one second, Mike. Yeah. This is because a name has something that light doesn't have. A name is something that's concealed. Like we said before, let's talk about this. Like we said before, 1,000 people can be called by the name of Shlomo, and so a name doesn't say anything about the person. Nevertheless, if there's a crowd of 1,000,000 people and you yell out Shlomo, as those people whose name is Shlomo, they turn with all of their essence. So on one hand, the name is the most external thing about a person. It just seems to be a convenience. You call them what are you going to call the son? Shlomo, call him George, call him Sam, whatever you call him. Okay, we'll call him Shlomo. Good, right? No, my father was called Shlomo. I want to call him Shlomo. Okay, Shlomo, leave me alone, Shlomo. That's it. So no, there was nothing holy about it, right? It's not really so much. A name externally seems to be an accidental thing that was just given a name, right? So, but really, a name shows on the essence. And the same thing, the world is made from God's names. It seems, therefore, that the world is regular, but that really the name, the physical world, really comes from God's essence. Therefore, this itself, the highness of a name, is revealed by means of the light. That's what the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said, that Tzemach Tzedek said, in a mimer, was called B'Shalach Paro. He said, at first glance, we should say, it says, B'Shalach Paro et ha'am, that Paro, next week's Torah portion, that Paro sent the people. It should have said, Paro sent Israel. What does it mean he sent the Am, the people? Now, the word Am means people, but the word Am in Hebrew also means to be dim. Lashon Omomot. The Jewish people are called the Am because their light is dimmed down. Namely, they're in this physical world. They look like everybody else, act like everybody else. So the holiness of the Jews is not recognized. It's dim. So it explains over there that on the Jewish people, when they're in Egypt, it says, "V'zarati li ba'oretz," I have planted you in the land. And the rabbis say that a pleased person, when he plants things, he only plants them in order that there should be an increased growth. A person plants 1 bushel full in order that he should have 100 bushels. Who al derech, it's known, being what the Torah and the commandments are called planting. They're called seeds. The Aliyah Desha mitzvahs, that by means that a Jew does a commandment, the Jewish people plant by means of the commandments, the Jewish people are planting godliness in the world. And like we said, when you plant something, you want to plant 1 and it grows up 100. In the Jewish people, by the means of the Jewish people, the whole world becomes what's called a desirous land. And the Jewish people themselves are called a desirous land. What does it mean? Like the Baal Shem Tov, that in every single Jew, there are hidden treasures and diamonds and things like that. But Dugma is just like the ground, physical ground. But what? You just have to dig and reveal them. This refers to the Jewish people as they are in this physical world specifically. By means of this, the Jewish people grow up. Hine, Alder says similarly, is also relevant to the planting of the Jewish people when God planted them in Egypt. God put them in Egypt and planted them, so to speak, sunk them into this exile in order that there should be a growth afterwards. Bishvila, Hosafa, an addition that will be by them by means of gathering together these sparks we talked about so much, but they gathered from Egypt. And the reason for this is the gathering and the addition of the Jewish people is because it's done. Why did God pick the Jews to do it? Again, the reason what this growth and the addition of the Jewish people is because of the physical world. We have to be in this physical world and gather up these sparks in the physical, low physical world. That first of all, it has to be in Shehayu B'tchila in B'tachlis Ahelam. It has to be totally concealed. Is mitzad Mailish Sheb'Shem, because of the idea of a name. God wants us. It's not just that God took a treasure and he hid it in the earth. It's the idea that the earth itself is the only place where there can be this treasure, and it has to be hidden in order for it to be a treasure. That's why God created the world with names, because names indicate this very same thing. A name is the lowest thing, but in it is contained the essence. We'll see. In is like this, like the previous Rebbe said, Mashal Morizal, that God said that it said, the rabbis say, that God walked 500 years, a spiritual idea, in order that he should acquire for himself a name. A name. What does that mean? The source of this idea of a name is above even God's light. That even though that the idea of a revelation is with light, right? You see your father, you see $1 million, you see that's seeing is that's reality, right? When you that's revealing the thing. Light is, it says something like the illuminator, and by means of light you can see a true thing. Come on there. For instance, the light of a candle. I'm sorry. One second. The light of a torch, the light of the moon, the light of the sun. By means of the light of a thing, a picture. You take a picture of somebody, you look, oh, that's a picture. Where'd you get this picture from? That's a picture of my good friend. That's a picture of my father. The picture is like the person, a picture. There's a difference between a light that comes from a candle and the light that comes from a torch. The difference shows on the origin, which is not the case in name. A name doesn't seem to indicate anything about the person. Many people can be called by the same name, but nevertheless, it's not at all similar between the name and light. And even what? Why? 1 second. Light seems to indicate a big difference. A picture of one person is different from the picture of the other, which is not the case. The name, you can have 1,000 people called by the same name, and it says, but the fact of the matter is that even though the names are the same, but the people are all different. And even more, that even the name of a of a species that shows on the type of life, this is also concealed. Like it says that when he praised the first man, that he knew how to call names of all of the creations. Why? Because the source of man, Shorish Chayoso, the man was able to reveal the inner source of every creation. So a thing went by, so God said, what do you call this? Chatul. Chatul means a cat. Okay, what's this? This is called para. This is called a how I mean, all the cows in the world are called para. What's the big genius about that? Because he knew what the source of cows were. He knew the source of cats were. Even though if the name would shine in a revealed way, just like light, so it says that Adam knew, right? It says that all the angels say, wow, how did he know that was called a para? How did he know? It must be that a name shows on something very, very deep that's concealed and that can only be revealed by the holiness of the first man. So we can see that a name, even though externally it seems to not reveal very much, but what's really there is concealed. Similarly, it's also what the first man said, God, I'm going to call you by the name Adonai. Why? Because you are the Adon, you are the master of the whole world. That which was necessary to the wisdom of man is because the name of God was concealed. And this is the essence somehow or other. The name goes on the essence. Nevertheless, there's a good thing about light, which is better than a name. A light is what's called a ray, alone. A ray, a ray of a thing. Where you see a picture of my father. I see a picture of, oh, where'd you get this picture from? Wow, that reminds me of things. It's just a little, that's not your father. That's just a picture of him. In fact, I'm telling you the truth, it's just a picture of a picture. And it's only a ray, which is not the case. A name, even though it's something separate, but the name somehow or other is attached to the essence. Therefore, it draws the essence. Come on, a person that when he's passed out, unconscious, that he's not, you don't see any life, but you call the person's name, Shlomo. It could be that it'll wake the person up. The Fishali they create Hashem because by means of calling a person's name, it draws the person's essence. And even more, we find that calling individual names shall akochos mamshichem otam b'shorish makor. We see that calling the name of a thing. For instance, you call a person, you are so kind, it makes the person kind. Like it says in Torah, that by means you call a person, let's say you are wise, you are smart. I get a child in school, and the child is very mean and he's very stupid, and you tell the child, you aren't stupid, you're very smart. You're just different from all the others. I see you really are intelligent. You're just frustrated because you don't know, no one appreciates that. That'll make the child smart. You tell the child he's beating everybody, you are really kind, you're really nice. It's such a nice thing to be good and such a kind, you know it, you're really kind. It makes the child kind. Right? You tell them to do here, give a coin to this poor person. By means of calling names, the name brings out this power of wisdom from the person. Similarly, it is also by God. By you call God a name, you say, God, you are wise, you are kind. This arouses by God. That's the idea of our prayers. We pray to God, please reveal your kindness, right? We're just saying the name and it comes out a real thing. That's what we're hoping. Even though that before the creation, that God's kindness and his wisdom and his kindness, they were hidden, like it says in the Hasidic Torah, or we learn in the morning. Look, and therefore it's explained that sometimes when you call names, it reaches also higher than what's called the 10 Sfirota Ganuzot. These 10 aspects of God before he even began creating the world. God's essence, personality, calling God's names can reach even higher. Nevertheless, regarding to the name of a person, Reuven, Shimon, etc., by means of calling his name, it draws down his essence. Okay, now we can understand that the life of God, Chayus Elokis, which is in the creations, is called a name. In addition to the fact that all the creations come from God's power, and they come from God's life force, and they come from God's light. But here we're talking about it's all contained within this idea of a name. Av Sheshem, even though that a name is a thing which is concealed, like we said, 1,000 people can be called the same name, doesn't reveal anything. Yesh Mila, because there's a big advantage in a name which is not in a light. The light, even though that it's similar to the origin, right? A picture of my father, that's very similar to my father, but nevertheless, it's just a ray. It's not the essence of the thing. Mikol Shekhan, how much more so the life which is in a thing, Shebakol Nibroim Notzer V'Nasim, everything that it doesn't show on the essence of the thing. The Nosaf Al Mashahu Rak, the Bechinas Orakav, it's just like the light of godliness, even the life force which is in everything. But this itself is Rak, it's just a ray, a little bit of light. There's a little different type of life force that comes into a plant, then that comes into an animal, that comes into a human being. Not so the case of a name. A name reaches the essence. Right? By looking at a picture of a person, you can't, that's not the person, it doesn't arouse the person. Even the life which is inside of a thing, it doesn't arouse the essence of that thing. But a name somehow or other does. Just like it's relevant to a name, Shemo, like it's relevant to the name of everything. That you call it in Hebrew. The Hashem hu chayus shalom. It says that the name of everything, like it says that Adam gave names to everything, he knew what the secret, the essence of every creation was. And it came out in the most external thing, the name of it. Similar, and the whole world is made from God's names. That's the point. Similar is also relevant to the names of Belaumatzah, of bad things. Mekivan, Shekol and Yanim, that everything is Bashkacha Praktis, everything is directed by God. Like we see in the books of the Rebbe is talking about his own father in many places. The Rebbe's father was also a tremendously genius person and a tremendously, learned person. And he was also a big Kabbalist, his father. And his father took everything that he saw and he found a meaning in it. Even names of people that were evil. And he could say all sorts of new ideas and serve and how to serve God better from names of people that were bad. But even since the highest life of godliness, which is everything, which is the name, is concealed, the essence is name of the essence of the name is concealed in the name. Therefore, there has to be all these other levels of light and life and life force. And by means of all these other external things, like the light of God and this, you can reveal the name of God. Sha'az yeshnom, both things of, so okay, like take an example. The light of God is, for instance, the Torah. The life of God is, you look at the world and you see that everything is alive and it's amazing. By means of all these hints that God is sending us, so we can come to what's called awakening the name of God. The name of God is the world as it is. It seems to have no meaning whatsoever. But really the name of God, that's connected like a name, arouses the essence of a person. The names of God, which is everything in the world, Chatul, Kelev, everything, that shows on somehow or other the essence of God. And that's the whole idea of us being specifically in the world, the lowest place, that reveals the highest. And that's what it means when we arouse the God's name. This arouses that we make God's name complete and God's throne complete. This is complete with the completion of the Jewish people and the completion of the Torah and the completion of the land of Israel. So that's the idea of the name of God, which is called Sivaot. That name of God called Sivaot, that's what reveals godliness in the lowest places. That's the name. That's what takes all of the other names of God, namely all the creations that there are in the world, good and bad. And this Sivaot is the power to elevate them all. That's why the Jewish people are called the armies of God, Sivaot Hashem, because we have the power to do this. That's why it's called Am Yisrael. We're planted in the world in order to reveal what is the essence source of names of God, which is everything in the world is the names of God. That externally, just like a name of a person doesn't seem to be anything at all, doesn't seem to have any meaning whatsoever, but really it's connected to the essence of the soul. And so it is with everything, the name, but the only way it can be revealed is by all these middle spiritual things like light and life and power. And that's why the land of Israel is called Eretz, the land, because it wants to do the will of God. The land of Israel. And we see that's the whole point of contention now in the whole world, right? All of the world, all the nations of the world, they're all looking at the land of Israel, the land of Israel, the ground, the ground of Israel, right? Israel is the land of Israel. I mean, maybe we can say in a joking way, they dug these tunnels. There's one tunnel or something in 770 underneath. They just wanted to widen the place out. The boys, they dug it in the ground. Ooh, what is in the tunnel? Right? There's a tunnel. There must be secret, monsters hiding down there, or it's a torture chambers, or maybe there's drugs. It's a drug manufacturing industry. It was just a little tunnel that they used. They were thinking about widening it anyway. It was nothing, but they made a whole big, story about the Iliad and the Odyssey from this tunnel. The boys, the ground from under the ground, the holy ground, right, of the synagogue. But the whole land of Israel is a holy land, and from it will show that the whole world is holy. God is creating the whole thing. That's why it's called the land of Israel. It's called Eretz, because it wants, Eretz Ratzon, the Pirush Ratz to Lasot, that it wants to do is not just that it wants, but it's also for the land of running, Ritza. Same thing as Ratzon, will, is Ritza. And that's the land, the land, which is the lowest thing of all. The land is dead, right? A person dies, you put him in the ground. The ground doesn't run anywhere. The ground hasn't gone. But the fact of the matter is from the ground, everything grows. And especially the land of Israel grows all spirituality to the desire that people want it. They run for it. This is Malchut Shebebechinas Helen. This is the lowest aspect of God, which is called God's kingship. Everything is concealed. Therefore, how do we have to serve God? We have to serve God also without any understanding, without any emotion. Even if there's lacking understanding, we don't understand what God is, but nevertheless, Kabbalah at all. We have to accept the yoke, go against the whole entire world. Never, and not only that, does the world not deter us or deter us, take away our motivation for serving God even more. It causes us to run. Rutz, latzot, rutzon, we run to do the will of God. That's the land. We want to reveal God in the land. Sherutzim, that everyone runs, men loift, we run to the future redemption, to the true redemption, the complete redemption by means of Moshiach Tzidkeinu bin Arenu, that we reveal the names of God, the essence of the names of God will be revealed in this world. B'meira b'yameinu mamish. That's the Mimer Bati LGANI, 14th chapter, how the Rebbe explained it in 1984. Huh? Yeah, in 1984. Okay, and now let's do the Yom Yom.